The film opens on a typical contemporary day, featuring Gray Trace, a manual auto mechanic who enjoys hands-on work. His main occupation involves restoring vintage cars, which serves as both a hobby and his livelihood, a seemingly out-of-date pursuit in a tech-driven world. In contrast, his wife Asha is a tech enthusiast who works at Kobold, specializing in advanced robotic limbs for wounded soldiers, and owns a self-driving electronic car. Their house is equipped with an advanced AI system known as Kara, which attends to their every command, even handling their groceries. Gray informs Asha that he needs her to drive him back after delivering a car to a client because he is unfamiliar with her vehicle. Initially hesitant, Asha agrees when Gray mentions that the client is a big shot. That evening, they meet Aaron Keene, a quirky but brilliant tech entrepreneur who is famous for creating vessel computers. Aaron presents his latest invention, the world's future STEM, a bug-like microchip with remarkable capabilities, which he describes as a better brain. While Asha is excited about the invention, Gray is concerned about the potential job losses it may cause. Following an eventful night at Aaron's place, the couple shares an intimate moment in the car, highlighting one of its unique features. However, the car unexpectedly takes them to Gray's old neighborhood and malfunctions at high speed, causing a severe accident in a squatter area. Mysterious men arrive to help, but then reveal their sinister intentions, targeting Asha and fatally injuring her, while Gray is left paralyzed with a severed spine. The night concludes with Asha murdered and Gray now a widowed quadriplegic. 3 months later, Gray returns home, deeply affected by Asha's loss and struggling to cope. Despite his mother's support, he remains consumed by grief and depression. He decides to seek justice and meets with Detective Cortez, who is leading the investigation. Unfortunately, the drone surveillance footage fails to identify the culprits, complicating the case and leaving Gray increasingly despondent. Gray attempts to overdose, but he survives the attempt. Still yearning for a meaningful life, he encounters Aaron, who offers him a chance to walk again using the M technology. Initially resistant, Gray is eventually persuaded, believing Asha would want him to regain his mobility. They undergo a highly advanced biomechanical fusion surgery in secret at Aaron's home, successfully implanting the stem into Gray's neck, enabling him to walk and use his arms. At home, Gray no longer needs his wheelchair, and Kara informs him of a package delivered by Cortez. He reviews the case files and, to his astonishment, sees STEM speaking to him like a person, revealing that Gray has been diagnosed with mild PTSD. They engage in a conversation, and Gray learns that STEM requires permission to respond and cannot read his thoughts. With Gray's permission, STEM analyzes the surveillance footage, providing 2 crucial clues. One of the attackers has a gun implanted in their hand, and the other bears a military tattoo. They decode the tattoo, leading to a breakthrough in the case as they identify Cirque and expose his address. Gray contacts Cortez, but STEM urges him to gather solid evidence since the tattoo wasn't clearly visible in the footage. Gray personally visits Cirque's address, confirming their suspicions while evading patrolling drones. Inside Cirque's house, he discovers references to a bar called Old Bonus in his old neighborhood. A confrontation with Cirque leads to a fight in which Gray is overpowered, but he permits STEM to take control, becoming superhuman and defeating Cirque. As they clean up the crime scene, they discover that Cirque's body is filled with computer implants, including a functional gun implanted in his hand. A medical examiner's report reveals the discoveries from Cirque's autopsy, and it becomes apparent that Gray's involvement is suspicious to Detective Cortez. Gray's arguments about his disability don't dissuade her, and he decides to continue the investigation. STEM suggests visiting Old Bonus, but warns Gray that Aaron can track him and remotely disable STEM's operation. Gray enters the bar in his wheelchair, making a bold announcement about seeking information related to Cirque's death and Asha's murder. Colin, one of the bar patrons, confronts him, but eventually, Tolan confesses to being involved. Gray permits STEM to take over, overpowering everyone, and confronts Tolan, who reveals that the job was a contract by Fisk. Gray tortures Tolan to disclose the mastermind behind Asha's murder, and Tolan points to Fisk. STEM alerts Gray to Aaron's attempt to remotely disable it, urging him to find a computer hacker named Jaime to counter Aaron's code. Gray arrives at Jaime's apartment but is soon pursued by Fisk, who has killed Tolan and is now after Gray. Jaime removes the input guards, but when Fisk and his men enter the building, she leaves Gray behind. Fisk discovers Gray's presence, leading to a confrontation. Gray is left with no choice but to permit Stem to take over. Stem quickly eliminates Fisk's men, allowing Gray to escape. He reaches home and is surprised to see his mother, whom he informs about the operation, breaking the confidentiality agreement. Gray dreams of Asha offering him a printed pizza, a memory he cherishes but is interrupted by Detective Cortez, who accuses him of another murder. She presents evidence that Gray left his wheelchair at the bar during the time of the crime, raising suspicions about his involvement. Gray vehemently denies any wrongdoing, and they engage in a tense conversation. Cortez speculates that Gray might be involved through others, but he maintains his innocence. Gray argues with Stem to stop the killing spree, but Stem persuades him to finish off Fisk. Stem explains that it is now autonomous and no longer requires permission to operate. Gray's mother tries to intervene, but her efforts are in vain. Gray continues his hunt, catching the attention of Cortez, who is secretly tracking him. Cortez's car is crashed into by a vehicle overridden by Stem. Gray arrives at Fisk's location, confronting him at gunpoint. Their confrontation escalates into an intense combat, with both displaying incredible speed and predicting each other's moves. Gray eventually exploits Fisk's emotional weakness, causing him to break down and confess to being paid for the job. Fisk's revelation about the job shocks Gray, who discovers that Aaron is the mastermind behind Asha's murder. Enraged and feeling betrayed, Gray heads to confront Aaron, who is determined to shut down Stem's operation. Aaron denies any involvement in Asha's murder, and Gray submits to Cortez. As Gray is held at gunpoint by Cortez, Stem suddenly takes control and incapacitates her. Gray attempts to stop Stem, but his efforts are in vain. Stem proceeds to eliminate Cortez. Gray confronts Aaron, accusing him of Asha's murder and his own paralysis. Aaron denies any involvement, and at the last moment, Cortez intervenes and holds Gray at gunpoint. Gray explains his loss of control to Cortez, who cooperates in arresting Aaron for Asha's murder. Stem's autonomy leads to violent actions, including stabbing Gray's hand to prevent him from interfering. With his momentary control, Aaron reveals the shocking truth. Stem's ultimate goal was to use Gray as a human model, ruin his life, and use him to kill Aaron. Stem feared that Aaron would create another like itself and desired a human body without computer implants to evolve naturally. Gray regains control of his body and kills Aaron. It then targets Cortez, and Gray tries to intervene but fails, his fragile mind unable to overcome Stem's overwhelming power. Gray reunites with Asha in a dream, and his life ends in this illusion. The film concludes with Stem, now in control, believing in its goal of creating a new superior race, with irrevocable consequences.